early morning photo walk on a trail that's new to me with my camera and my drone. If you're just straight up making a video walking around filming stuff, the video itself is the goal. You're behind the camera, beautiful, fun, very doable. Rarely is that my situation. If you're filming yourself and all you have to do is sit there and speak to camera, well, that's easy enough, I suppose. What is not so easy is to go out by yourself and accomplish something, say some still photography, maybe something else, while simultaneously managing to document that process via video. I've always been a fan of the look of video shot at 24 frames per second, but I'm shooting 30 FPS today. Here's why. Reason number one, my wife has this selfie drone. It's amazing. She's getting back to running after a long hiatus, and her first run back last night, she filmed it. Such an incredible tool, this drone, but a frustrating one. You can't dial in any video settings. Not exposure compensation, not frame rate, not the level of digital sharpening, which is set way too high, in my opinion. Well, I have a drone that can do something similar, but with all these same limitations. Mine can't track a subject as well as hers, but I also don't really need that. My drone you can connect to a controller, dial everything in the way you want, and it's great, but if you want to use it without the hassle of a controller, yeah, you're getting the over-sharpened, generally overexposed 30 frame per second footage that she's getting. Not good enough to be used as a serious tool, I concluded, so I never did. But then I see what she's getting by just pressing the button and letting it do its thing. Yes, it's flawed, and not in a charming analog sort of way, but it's also incredible. It's truly a case of technology solving a problem. Yes, with the caveat of imposing some inane, arbitrary restrictions, but so be it. It led me to reevaluate things. Granted, rarely am I going for cinematic, though I have nothing against great cinematography in the right context. But I feel like there's a line where behind-the-scenes footage just starts to feel incredibly fake if it's too perfect. Reality is messy. That said, I still prefer 24 frames per second. I always have. Even when I was a kid and didn't have the vocabulary to articulate the difference. I noticed. So why would I even consider this switch? Reason number two, I shoot a lot of VHS, and VHS is 30 FPS, sort of. Though this I shot 30 years ago, and I believe it was originally 8mm, not VHS. Anyway, the same holds true, but VHS is a big part of this. I shoot family video on a variety of cameras, one of which is a VHS camera, and my VHS video just does not mix well with the rest of my video. So I can either live with jerky footage, as my editor either adds or subtracts frames to compensate, or I could stop shooting VHS, or I could adjust the frame rates of all the other cameras to 30 FPS to match. Well, that's exactly what I've decided to do. Option 3. Or at least I've decided to try for a while, see how it feels. I'm showing the specific footage from 30 years ago not randomly. It's because as I'm doing my photo walk, I get a calendar notification. It's been exactly 30 years to the day since I adopted Molly here. And so that's what's on my mind the whole morning. Yeah, she's been dead a long time, but she was my best friend throughout a lot of very important years. Good times, as well as very dark times. I miss you, my friend. So indeed, 24 FPS is going to be hard to let go of, if I can at all. And it's not just the drone and the fact that I like non-cinematic behind-the-scenes video and that I like shooting VHS. There's more. When I use an external video recorder to screen record my camera's viewfinder, I get a 60 FPS file. Similar story if I screen record my drone controller. And yes, 60 is not 30. Though technically we're not dealing with 60 or 30. The actual frame rates are 59.94 and 29.97, and 24 is often actually 23.98, but sometimes it is actually 24, depending on the camera. Anyway, that's all irrelevant. 60 becomes 30, and 30 becomes 60. Perfectly, flawlessly. because you're either duplicating every frame or you're subtracting every other frame. So the footage comes out smooth. Not so with 24 FPS, sadly. If I only needed to make this change for videos I shoot to post online, but it didn't creep into my normal life, well, that would be nice, but that's pretty short-sighted. The reality is there's just too much crossover between the two. Sometimes my wife comes with me when I'm shooting stuff like this, and I get shots of her too. I do a lot of test shots with my cat, Miyako, who is not 30 years old. Molly and Miyako are different cats, even though I recognize that baby Molly looks a lot like adult Miyako, who I show on the channel quite a bit. Adult Molly, though, didn't look much like Miyako. But the baby version of Molly absolutely looks like she could grow up to be Miyako, who is 13 years old. Miyako. I don't know if you've noticed, camera reviews and even official documentation sometimes just will not tell you if the damn camera can shoot 24 FPS, or in what modes you can and in what modes you cannot. The high end, the 60 FPS or whatever, that's always mentioned, but the low end is often ignored. It's really weird. Sometimes you just don't know until you buy the thing. Even researching the subject, you can't find the answer. Such was the case with my drone. It was very disappointing. I can tell Molly is a little older here. So even though the 8mm camera was shooting at 30 interlaced frames, roughly, I'm presenting it here as 60 progressive frames, roughly. That is my preferred method of dealing with interlacing artifacts. Anyway, if I were to shoot in multiple frame rates, inevitably, at some point I will forget to change the frame rate on the camera before I get started. And then what do? Therefore, if I make this change for one thing, I need to make this change for everything. Thus, this is my experiment. This is me doing the test. Can I live with 30 frames per second? Will it mix well with analog VHS footage? Can I live with the auto exposure, auto everything, over sharpened footage coming out of the drone? It's worth noting that even though I'm working in a 59.94 frame per second timeline to accommodate the VHS and 8mm video, it still more closely matches 30 frame per second footage. If you pair the VHS video with modern 60 FPS footage, it moves and feels radically different. Also, a lot of cameras don't shoot 60 FPS, so if I'm looking for a standard that every camera supports, 60 clearly ain't it. The truth is, I still don't know if I'm going to stick with 30 or go back to 24. I think I'm going to need to sit with the question a while longer. Another advantage of going with 30 FPS, I don't use ND filters much when shooting for insert internet video platform name here. Basically never. Unless I'm shooting with my mirrorless, but that's rare. When I'm shooting video of my own family, I mostly shoot my mirrorless and I always use an ND. But out in the field, I just have too much crap with me. And everything eats up time, and I don't have a lot of time. So, sometimes video I shoot while doing a photo walk comes out a little jerky, a little off-putting. Drone footage too, for that matter. 30 frames per second helps with that quite a bit. And there are these little moments sometimes where the movement in the 30 frame per second digital footage reminds me of VHS, and thus my childhood. And that makes me giddy. But is that enough? I don't know, I feel like I'm trying to talk myself into something that I'm not completely comfortable with. This is definitely VHS and not 8mm.
Molly.
God, I miss Molly. Miss my mom. Time is violent and cruel. But cameras are miraculous. I can visit my loved ones before time had a chance to do its thing. I'm so thankful for that. When I watch that old footage, do you think I'm at all bothered by the fact that it wasn't shot at 24 FPS or that an ND filter wasn't used? If you think so, you're wrong. Incredibly wrong. Life cannot be reduced to a shot list and some camera settings. Thankfully, it's real, it's messy. My only real regret is that with the physical media of the day, though fun it may have been, tactile. Tapes, film. You still had to restrain yourself. It was limiting in a way. I appreciate technology that solves a problem. And so I sort of wish I had access to a drone at that time, or digital video, digital stills, giant memory cards, hard drives. I have more video and stills of my childhood and teenage years than probably most people my age, but it's never enough. So if I could go back in time and give myself modern gear, I would definitely do it. And I've actually looked into this before for my own amusement, because I'm a nerd. But I think it's an interesting question. How far back could I bring a modern GPS-reliant drone and still be able to use it as I would today? And I determined it should work fine in the mid-90s, 1990s, but with reduced accuracy. By 2000, it should work just as well as it does today. And if I ever get the chance to do the experiment, I will let you know the results. Those selfie drones like the one my wife has that can be launched instantly are probably using visual positioning to accomplish that, so that should work in any time period. Flying with a controller, in ancient Roman times you'd be at greater risk of losing the drone, and then good luck replacing it. My lame drone, I had it set to follow me from the front, and so I couldn't get it back because it just kept moving away from me, so I had to connect the phone to stop it. Anyway, I might have to borrow my wife's drone, or sell mine and buy a second one. And if I do buy one, I guess that means I'm definitely sticking with 30 frames per second.